So what is host information profile in Global Protect? So traditionally, a VPN, if you take a peek at this diagram here, a VPN has allowed remote clients to enter a remote network. And the condition was, as long as it's an IP-based device, as long as it can form the VPN connection, then it can connect to the network. But at Palo Alto Networks, we're very much about the Kipling model when it comes to securing transactions or connections. We want to know the where, the who, the when, the what, the why. And in this instance, in a traditional VPN connection, there's something missing. We're not looking at the what. We're allowing anything to come and connect in our network. We haven't set any baseline criteria. So that is what host information profile. This is an add-on. This is in fact part of the Global Protect Gateway license, which gives you a bunch of different features. In fact, if I may show you here, so the Global Protect, and you can visit this, and I'll leave this in the description as well, the link. The Global Protect Gateway license allows all of these additional features, and one of them is the host information profile check, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So that's the value, it's the what, really to get into the what of the device that's connecting into the network. So what are the things that one can control? So this is just a little diagram I made comprising of a few of the things that you can control with host information profile. So with host information profile, I can specify that the operating system of my connecting devices into my network must be Mac, and I can even specify more granularly it must be macOS 13.6 or whatever operating system version I so choose, and then I can select that. So now my devices would have to be 13.6, otherwise they would not be allowed onto the network. Similarly, antivirus, do they have it? And we can say they must have McAfee, disk encryption. Mobile device management, do they have the mobile device management required to be installed? And yep, we can say yep, we want that. Host firewall, is it turned on? If it's not turned on, we want to put a message out there. We want to say please put it on, and then we'll give you access. So bunch of different things and more. Now the idea is to accelerate the zero trust architecture. We want to have a complete security posture whereby we're not allowing any old device, perhaps with a vulnerable operating system or perhaps with disk encryption disabled, which can be quite dangerous. So we want to control these factors before we give access to these devices into our network, and it's all for the purpose of increasing security. It's not to say that it's going to give you perfect security, but it's going to increase the level of security and move towards a more zero trust standard. So let's take a look at these host information profile in action. Today's video is not going to be a configuration video. It's more so going to be what is it and where do you find it. So I've logged in to my firewall here, my Palo Alto firewall, and under the Objects tab we go to the Global Protect section, which is fairly simple. There's just two sections, Object and Profile. So objects are the criteria themselves, and then we can build multiple criteria, pop them in a profile, and then the profile we apply to a security policy. So a fairly simple 2-3 step process to create one. So let's see how easy it is to create one. So in fact, I've created one here for iPhones. Let's take a look at that. So we've got a HIP object here that I've called for all iPhones, and I've specified that the operating system must be Apple 15.3, iOS 15.3. We can up that. We can it's only 15.3 because the firewall, I haven't upgraded it to the latest version. So even though I think we're on 16, 17 now or something. I can't see that. But nevertheless, we've got a number of factors, you know, mobile device management, patch management, firewall, anti-malware, this, you know, a bunch of them, and you can take a look at them. So these are the common ones. Now, we find that many customers, they find this sufficient as a measure of control for their remote client devices. However, if an organization wants to go a step further, has got a particular process or a particular file that they want to check for, you can also do something called custom checks. Now, what custom checks allow you to do is look at the registry key. In fact, I have got, so I've put together a few examples, and there are many and hundreds of examples that one could potentially implement within their organization. But a few of them, you know, we look at registry entries. So what sort of things, you know, USB storage devices, that must be disabled before, because we don't want, let's say you connect to the network, you pop the USB in, and then you start exfiltrating data and documents onto that USB. Of course, you can have endpoint security and various other means to prevent something like that. But this is one way that we provide, you know, defense in depth. Screen lock policy, you know, DLP. It's not sufficient that you have DLP, but rather do you have active processes running within your endpoint. Encryption libraries, you know, do they have a certain standard set of encryption? So perhaps for financial organizations or you know, fintech or banking or something, you'd want to look in these things. We'd want to make sure there's a level of encryption before we allow a remote VPN connection. Network adapter, say, another one. So the list can go on, and it's really, the limit is the extent of your knowledge and the configuration on how to how to implement these custom checks, looking at the registry keys and their default values. So once you know that, you can pretty much create it, and that would be providing the security for your remote client devices. So once you create the object, I've created one object, you can have multiple objects in one HIP profile. So what we do to create a profile for all iPhones, and then we add one of the objects. So there we go. So pretty much the same one as this, well, exactly the same one as the one that I've already created. There we go. And then we can go into the policies tab and apply it to a security policy. So that brings me to the end of this video on host information profile. I hope you understand what the purpose from a security perspective that host information profile delivers, and also how to configure it. We did say we're not going to go into how to configure it, but we've ended up pretty much showing you how it's configured. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope that was beneficial.